Okay, so everybody's always wondering the dimensions on these student benches that I make for my first years. So I thought I would put it together, and I'm just going to go over these one piece at a time. So one of the first things that I make is a catch drawer. I try to use as much recycled material as I can. This particular one is 15.5. Can't really see this in the video, but it's 15.5 this way by 24.5 this way. It could actually be 24. I try to optimize a 4x8 sheet of wood when I do these. My legs are 33.5 tall from here to here, and this piece is 14.5 wide in between the two 2x4s. You can see these are the ends here. Now, the location of the drawer, I go 14.5 inches down from here, and that is also where this cross piece is that helps support the drawer base. This piece of wood is a slide for the drawer. You can see when the drawer goes in, there is a little bit of playroom. That way it slides nicely, but it also has the two pieces of wood to give it support. Now these benches cost me about $30 Canadian to make. So I make two of these. I'm just going to put both of them on the table so you can see them. That is one side, the other side must mirror it, so you can see that the two pieces, oops, I should turn this one more. The two pieces of the drawer have to be the same height, so I measure from the top down to get that bottom one, and then I put the drawer in place because my drawer height changes depending on what leftovers I have. These feet are 24 inches long because I can cut 4 of them out of a 2x4 piece, 8-foot long piece of material. The tops of my benches, oopsies, the tops of my benches are small. These are student benches, remember? So it's 32 inches wide by 16 or 18 deep. This lets me get 5 of these out of a 4x8 sheet, plus I can make a narrower one, but I usually use it for the inside piece instead. This piece here is 4 inches deep, 8 inches over, 8 inches over. I always cut a flat spot for this bench peg that I make them out of an extra 2x4. This is the offcut that goes here, and it has holes. I drill holes in here for extra flex shaft tools. Again, this little thing here is just an offcut with a inch, quarter inch or 3/8, 3/8 inch, half-inch bit, could be 3/8. Just reamed it a little bit. So when I put these together, they are meant to be in a student's space, so they're not big, and I call them a starter bench. I think that the students get a lot out of having a bench at their house. So I'll just set that one there. I put the drawer in place and I line it up just like this. Make sure that it slides into the slot. Put it together nice and tight. And I'm going to loosen it off in a minute. Then I have 3 pieces of strapping. These are 4x32. And I'm just going to change. I don't want to use my ratchet drill for this, although I usually do. So the first one that I put in on these, and I do pre-drill, I don't glue. I use mostly screws except for the leg parts because they don't come apart. But if you want to raise or lower the bench height, it's a good idea to put screws in instead. So I will line this first one up. Make sure this is the first one. This is not the first one. The first one has a couple of extra holes in the top so that I can put some screws into the top of the bench. So I'm going to overhang it the height of my tabletop, and then I'm going to go on the other side. Now I'm going to make sure that my legs are straight up and that I have at least an 1/8 of an inch playroom on the back here. So I move the drawer all the way to the back. and make sure the legs are out 1/8 of an inch wider than you think they need to be. And that's just so that the bench, the drawer slides freely. And then put a second one in, and the second one in on the other side. Now I put 3 of these in. So I always put one right across, and I'm going to turn the bench around so you can see better here. I always put one right across. Here's the drawer. You can see how, check it to make sure it slides. And the reason I put one right across the back where the drawer is because I don't want the drawer to slide out. So putting one across the back, right at that point, will prevent it. If you want to measure this, you can. I'm actually just going by the height of these to the tops of the drawer. So that's my drawer stop. And it also obviously stabilizes it. So that's going to bump into there. And then I'm going to put one more at the bottom here. Like so. Now, these are not something you're going to, professionals going to use, but the basic idea is there. So now this is already getting pretty sturdy. I could put a piece across the floor as well, but I find that I actually don't need it. Should check it for square and put my bench top on it, like so. And I can see that this is a little high, but I'll lower that in a minute. Once I have my top positioned, I put in 6 screws in the top, like so. This piece is just screwed in from the bottom. Make sure that this is flush at the front on both sides. Helps keep the bench square. Just like that. And then a couple screws in there. These are pre-drilled, of course, so that I don't split my wood. That's it. So it's pretty sturdy. This is for your light, like so. And then, of course, you need an adjustable chair, but you can see how you can get under this nicely, and the drawer is strong enough to move it. Now I think actually I'm going to lift this drawer up a little bit on this one because it's too low for me, but my chair is pretty big. I like to keep a lot of room in here for cutting, more so than catching, but I will move that up a little bit. So that's a basic student bench. If I was going to do a good one, how would I make it better? Glue, for one. But because these are meant to be taken apart and put into a car to take home for the students, it's a little bit easier without it. Obviously, a better bench peg, a better top. You could double up the thickness of the top. You could make a bigger top. 2x6s instead of 2x4s is better. Caulking the drawer using new wood as opposed to recycled wood is better, but I prefer recycled. And then, for a student to have something like this in their at their house, it means they can do filing. If they've got a flex shaft, they can hook it up here and get some work done at home off hours. The schools are only open a certain amount of time, and for somebody living in res, this thing makes perfect sense, assuming your resident lets it happen. Anyways, I hope this is helpful.